We would like to play. Yeah, but there's only one of me. I would like... That doesn't work at all, does it? Here's 5 reasons. So hey, just so you know, and to get this out of the way, the last 2 games covered in this episode are more violent than what you might normally expect to see here, so just, be forewarned. Anyways, I'm Roger the Retro Gaming Puppet, and this is 5 Reasons. The way I used to determine if a thing was retro or not was by age. If something was more than a decade old, I'd say, yeah, it's retro. Now I've sort of revised that, and I go by console generation, so if a game is 2 generations or older, then it's retro. Now as it happens, the Nintendo Wii just turned 10 on November 19th, and as it also happens, the Wii U just ceased production in anticipation of the Nintendo Switch coming next spring. So I guess I'm covered on both counts. The Nintendo Wii is probably not something I need to discuss in too much depth here because it's likely anyone watching it lived through this. But to jog your memory, the Wii was codenamed the Revolution and was officially unveiled as the Wii in April of 2006 during a pre-E3 press conference. The system was launched on November 19, 2006 in the US, with launches following in the rest of the world in early December. Over 20 games were available at launch, but most of them were mediocre at best. Notably, the launch lineup included a Zelda title, Twilight Princess, and packed in with every Wii outside of Japan and Korea was the system's #1 seller, Wii Sports. The system's simple controller and motion sensitivity made it a smash hit. Nintendo didn't discontinue the system in North America until 2011 and the rest of the world until 2013. But the system continues to be supported with new games coming out even this year. Just Dance 2017 just came out in October. As of now, there are over 1,650 retail releases, with numerous other titles available on the shop channel. The system itself moved over 101 million units worldwide, making it the most successful home console of the 7th generation by a fairly large margin, and the 3rd most successful home console of all time, after only the PlayStation and PlayStation 2. When it launched, the Wii was initially backwards compatible with the GameCube, though that feature was removed in the system's hardware revisions. The first revision, in Europe, Australia, and North America, was the Family Edition. This version is reasonably indistinguishable from the original Wii. Later, there was the Wii Mini, which was a full system redesign. The Wii is largely remembered as a haven for shovelware. Actually, now that I think of it, it was largely thought of as that in its time as well, but the truth is that there are a lot of quality titles on this system. And while we're on the subject, I suppose I should discuss my rubric for including games on this list. See, this show is about exclusive titles, and you probably know that the Wii U is fully backwards compatible with the original Wii, including access to the shopping channel through the system's Wii Mode. Well, that made things a little difficult, but basically what I decided is that if something is available in the Wii U's own eShop, then it's disqualified because I view that as a different format. And that takes both Mario Galaxy, Sin and Punishment, and a host of other first-party games out of contention. Got it? Good. Then without further ado, here's 5 reasons to own a Nintendo Wii. And you know I love to start these with games that feature Mega Man, so hey, let's go with this one. Tatsunoko vs. Capcom was an arcade game called Tatsunoko vs. Capcom Cross Generation of Heroes, and it was ported to the Wii only in Japan. Most people wrote it off as something that simply wouldn't ever come to other territories, given that half the title's roster was comprised of characters that were mostly unknown to audiences outside of Japan. I mean, I like Sean Robot Hunter as much as anyone, but he's not exactly as recognizable as Wolverine, you know? Still, fortune smiled on us, and Capcom reworked the game and the roster for Tatsunoko vs. Capcom Ultimate All-Stars. This version removed 1 character and added 9 to the original 18-character roster for a total of 26 playable characters. At a time when it had been the better part of a decade since the last entry in their Versus series, This one was a welcome addition to Capcom's stable of fighting games. Playing it now, it feels a bit like a warm-up for Marvel vs. Capcom 3, from the control scheme to the roster and more, but honestly it's still a fun, quirky, and weird game, and you know, it's not that expensive. The price hasn't dropped as much as you might expect for a Wii game, but you can still find brand new copies at the original retail price, so check it out. A short-lived cartoon with more of the feel of the Adam West Batman show than the 90s animated series, The Brave and the Bold was apparently popular enough to get not just one, but 2 video games. Developed by the masterminds at WayForward on both the Wii and the DS, this version is a 2-player beat-em-up that offers connectivity with the decidedly different DS version for a 3rd player to use Batmite. This game, like other Batman cartoon-based games, uses a TV-inspired structure with 4 episodes comprised of smaller stages. Each of the 4 see Batman teaming up with a different partner, from Robin to the Blue Beetle, with all the heroes and villains given voiceovers by the cast of the show. The partner characters are always around, and you can choose to play as them instead of the Caped Crusader if you like, which is cool because they all have different gadgets and attacks. Batman the Brave and the Bold is not what you would call a difficult game, but it is overflowing with charm, and like most WayForward titles, it looks fantastic. Also, it's really cheap. I wouldn't expect to pay much more than $10 for a copy in today's market, so hey, give it a spin. The sole WiiWare game on this list, Contra Rebirth, is part of the larger Rebirth series from Konami. Back when they still cared about video games, they tasked the absolutely wonderful folks at M2 to create new entries in 3 of their classic series: Castlevania, Gradius, and, you guessed it, Contra. All 3 of these games are good, and they look like lost Super NES titles. Contra Rebirth has a confusing story, and I'm not sure where it fits into the larger Contra meta-narrative, but given that literally no one on Earth cares about the larger Contra meta-narrative, that's probably not a big problem. In fact, this probably marks the only time anyone will ever use the phrase, the larger Contra meta-narrative. The game has a total of 4 playable characters, including among them the original Contra hero Bill Riser, and 2 hidden characters, also including this weird lizard guy. But it's got all you expect from Contra: spread gun, quality soundtrack, ridiculous set pieces. Contra Rebirth isn't the best Contra game out there. In fact, it may not even be in the top 5, but considering Contra is one of our top 5 game series of all time, we may not be the best folks to ask. Point is, it's a super fun run and gun, and given that Konami only cares about the series these days to hot crappy mobile games and slot machines, it may end up being one of the last true entries in the series. Contra Rebirth is still available on the Wii Shop channel, along with the 2 other Rebirth games for $10 a piece. If I was you, I would definitely spend the $30 to get them all before Konami delists them. Hey, me again. Just a quick reminder, these last 2 games are rated M and contain considerably more violence and harsh language than you typically see here. Mad World was the first game released by Capcom expats Platinum Games. The game wears its inspirations on its sleeve, with a visual style ripped right from Frank Miller, and a story with more than a passing resemblance to 80s action movie classic The Running Man. In the future, a deadly game show called Death Watch is infiltrated by Jack. And Jack's true motives for entering the game, well, you'll have to play to find that out. But as a contestant in the game, you're tasked not just with killing your enemies, but doing it in style, gaining points for more and more contrived executions. And, like most televised contests, there is commentary, provided here by comedian and Whose Line Is It Anyway alum Greg Proops, and the voice of Marcus Phoenix and Bender, John DiMaggio. Over-the-top commentary to supplement an over-the-top action game. It all fits pretty well. Mad World isn't the most complicated thing gameplay-wise, but if B-movie stories are your thing and the violence doesn't turn you away, it's a super good time. In fact, it's still one of our favorite third-party Wii titles, and it's the cheapest game on this list. No More Heroes was something of a surprise on the Wii. A game from the developer of Killer 7, Suda51, the game was the kind of thing the Wii was often criticized for not having. It's probably our favorite third-party game on the Wii. Unfortunately, we can't really talk about it here because it was ported to the PS3 and Xbox 360 after its success. But the sequel, Desperate Struggle, remains a Wii exclusive. The game sees our original hero, Travis Touchdown, retired from the killing game. But his friend's severed head being launched through his window changes his mind, and now it's time for revenge. The game follows the formula of the first entry, but removes a few of the more annoying elements, like having to drive around the empty city of Santa Destroy. It also has more interesting minigames and several beam katanas that actually feel different from one another. Sadly, it suffers in a more important place, the main gameplay. I mean, for the most part it feels pretty similar to the first game, but the boss fights are a lot less interesting and innovative. Now, this isn't the worst thing, especially since the first game set the bar pretty high for boss encounters. But even the option to play as other characters in some places just doesn't quite freshen the game up, I'm afraid. Don't get me wrong, No More Heroes 2 is still a great game with an awesome soundtrack and unique characters. It's just that it isn't quite as good as the original. But hey, if you've got a Wii and character-driven action games are your thing, you owe it to yourself to check this one out. And that'll do it. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm Roger the Retro Gaming Puppet, and we'll see you next time right here on 5 Reasons.
Every year, we hope you'll walk out of our media briefing saying, yeah, these guys are the hot story of the show. But you know what? Today, we're not asking that. Of course, we hope you like what you've seen so far. But in reality, we also know that seeing is just an impression. Playing is believing.